Mandatory mini camps are kicking off all around the NFL, and no team had a worse start to theirs than the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll explain on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso, with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, the brain, Luke Braun. On today's episode, we're going to dive into teams that we aren't really even worried about when it comes to mandatory minicamp. We'll talk about some teams that definitely need to get off to a good start before training camp comes around. But we'll start, of course, with big holdouts in the AFC North and a situation in Cincinnati that continues to get uglier. Before we dive in, do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen and being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Luke, last year, we had the T. Higgins, the Ja'Marr Chase drama all season long for the Bengals. It was a black cloud over their season. Season didn't turn out the way that they wanted. This year, they pay Ja'Marr Chase. They pay T. Higgins. We think, hey, everything's going to be hunky-dory. And then the Trey Hendrickson situation happens, and he's demanding a trade, demanding a bigger contract, demanding something from the Bengals. And they're like, he needs to just be happy with what he's got. And then their first-round pick, Shemar Stewart, still not out on the field, still not participating. And when I say it got ugly, I mean it got ugly. Shemar Stewart on day one of mandatory minicamps. This is a rookie in the NFL. Came out and said about his contract dispute, quote, "I'm 100% right. It should be a no-brainer. In Trey's case, it should be a no-brainer too. I'm not asking for nothing y'all haven't done or y'all have never done before, but y'all, as in the Bengals, just want to win arguments more than winning games, in my opinion." That is a scathing assessment, or a nasty read, as the kids would say nowadays, of the Bengals franchise. That last comment, y'all want to win arguments more than winning games, in my opinion.
He's so right.
That's a bar for a rookie to be putting out there, and just how much worse of a start could you possibly have than the Bengals here?
He's right. I mean, you're going to do that. You're going to get called out for it. I want to remind everybody, the reason that Shemar Stewart is mad is because he has less guarantees on his rookie contract than the last 17th overall pick, which is not how it should scale.
Right.
The last 17th overall pick was Dallas Turner. His contract should have more guarantees. It should scale with the inflation, with the cap going up. That's how the rookie wage scale should work. So the Bengals are going uber cheapo. And the difference between what Shemar Stewart wants and what he has is really, really small. So to go over this, to bring it to this level and make it such a circus over relatively pocket change, absolutely insane. The Bengals deserve every single shot that they are taking.
And you know what I think it is? I think it's a domino effect of them paying Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins.
Yeah, they're cash poor.
They had to give out so much cash this year and those bonuses that they literally cannot do it with Trey Hendrickson, and they cannot give up even a little bit of ground, or don't want to, is probably what it is. I'm sure they could. It's not like they'll be bankrupt if not. But this just all goes back to this reluctance from Cincinnati to pay people what they're worth, because they are one of the organizations in the NFL that does not have, one of the richest owners in the league. So the salary cap is one thing, but what fans sometimes don't necessarily think of enough, and even us covering the teams, is the actual cash money that these owners are paying out.
Yeah, it's a solvable problem too. I think that's what makes me so upset. And I've been going at Mike Brown a ton on this show, and I'm not going to stop. But there are two really easy solutions to this. One, you could have approached the draft knowing you would have this problem. This would have been a great time to use this and say, well, maybe we'll try to trade down. It was hard to trade down this draft. Maybe they did try, didn't have it done. They didn't get it done and tried. That's one thing, but that could, like, you could have seen this coming. If you were going to draft someone at 17th overall, you know what they're going to make. And there are people in the organization whose whole job is to figure out that math equation before you go and get yourself locked into the situation. The other thing you could do, Mike Brown, liquidate an asset, dude. Like, you can create liquidity. You're a billionaire. You know how to do that. Like,
it's not that hard.
Nobody feels sorry for you. Okay. You're not looking at your Wells Fargo account and wondering, oh my God, I should probably download Monarch Money. Like, you can figure this out. You can even leverage your own ownership in the Bengals for liquidity. You can sell a minority stake to somebody. You can leverage any other assets that you have. This does not need to be this hard unless you're having an ego trip over somebody who is making real money for the first time in their lives, asking for what is fair, what there is precedent for, and you're going to throw a hissy fit about that. Stop being a child, grow up, and pay your players.
Yep. Listen, I think it's funny. Where's the line between principle and petty? Where people say, oh, it's the principle. And where does the line go to, oh, this is just outright pettiness?
What is an average thing to do? Like, the line is at the normal the normal amount of guarantees. We are below the normal amount of guarantees. Pay Shemar Stewart what is you would expect the 17th overall pick to make in guarantees, and nobody has a problem. This is a totally self-inflicted wound that is taking away from a team that needs to get a culture together in a hurry, or that window is going to slam shut if it hasn't already.
And not only culture, but think about functionally what they need help with. They need more help in the pass rush. And you have Trey Hendrickson, who led the NFL in sacks 2 years in a row, probably sitting on the pine, and he seems dug in too. If you're going to get petty and you're going to get personal with guys in these negotiations, guess what they're going to do in return? They're going to get personal. And whereas a normal player would say, oh, I'm not going to sit out games, like, I'm going to do my best to get more money, but I'm not. No, now you've made it personal, and that's when guys are willing to go crazy and do things, is when you've gone over the line. They'll go over the line in return, and that's how they do it. And not only Trey Hendrickson, but again, Shemar Stewart was one of the most, or one of the least pro-ready prospects drafted in the first round. Like, he was seen as one of the biggest project player talents that you could take in the first round, meaning he needed more development than everybody. And then when you're in the Bengals timeline and you're in Super Bowl or bust, you need him to accelerate as quickly as possible. So whether you look at his personal development and what he needs, or whether you look at what the Bengals need as a team, this is just a total disaster for them. And once again, a black cloud over their season as they start to go into things. And it's hard for teams to deal with this stuff year in and year out and be at their best and make Super Bowl runs. It's just not going to happen.
In 2014, the Saints window really slammed shut when their defense became one of the worst in the league for an extended period of time. And they never came out from that. They had other years where they were in the playoffs and part of the conversation, but they only made it back to the NFC Championship once. And that was the Nola no call, which came, 5 years later. Same thing's happening to Cincinnati right now. You're going to be, hovering around 500, losing games 45-44. And it's because of your ownership. Like, this is not, to me, on Zach Taylor at all. This is not on GM at all.
This is the difference.
It's ownership. You're destroying your own property, Mike Brown, because you can't get over yourself because a rookie asked for what was fair.
Yeah, it's insane how self-inflicted the end of this Bengals window will be when it eventually is obvious that it's done. But with that in mind, they're not the only team in the AFC North with a big-time holdout that I think is not great. Let's talk about teams that need to have a good start to camp, and unfortunately, one of them is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're not off to a good one. Do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Look, the NBA Finals are in full swing. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot from Tyrese Halliburton or a breakout play from Chet Holmgren, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, same game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Me personally, like I said, I know the Pacers won game one, but I'm backing the Oklahoma City Thunder here at least, and who I think is going to win. I wish neither team could win, if I'm honest with you. But I think OKC will win, so I'm going to bet them with money lines, with spreads, SGA, over on points. I think he's going to win Finals MVP as well. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Luke, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. We talked about the Cincinnati Bengals, bad, ugly, worse situation, but now I want to talk about some other teams around the NFL that need to have a good training camp, and I start with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And quite frankly, they did not get off to a great start to camp because TJ Watt is holding out. Now, this has been a story that I think is bubbling underneath the surface for quite some time. I have been talking about it on this show. Some people think I'm crazy for bringing it up, but here we are. TJ Watt skipping mandatory minicamp. He wants a new contract. He deserves a new contract. They just gave DK Metcalf $33 million per season when TJ Watt's been the foundation of the team for the last however many years. Myles Garrett and Max Crosby both got contract extensions when they weren't on the last year of their contract. TJ Watt is on the last year of his contract. He wants new money. He deserves new money. And if you're going to pay Metcalf, then you need to pay TJ Watt as well. Sends a bad sign to the locker room. They're not going to be at max capacity without him out there on the field and being involved in there. It's good that they got Aaron Rodgers in time. That's something that I clamored for, is getting him in before the break, before training camp. They did. Good job checking that box. But they really need to figure this thing out with TJ Watt.
Yeah, it's on like a separate issue from Aaron Rodgers. I think getting Aaron Rodgers in the building, like you said, yeah, really important because of the way that Aaron Rodgers works with his receivers, the hand signal systems that he has. This is all completely separate from like the playbook and the coaching. So getting them together, they can spend this whole time, hanging out, learning the way to communicate with each other and all that. Seems really important to me. And has nothing to do with TJ Watt. TJ Watt's thing might be like a media distraction or whatever, but it doesn't prevent those guys from like working on their communication and making sure that they can be on the same page a little better than say Aaron Rodgers was with like Mike Williams last year. Right. You don't want that situation to happen. But yeah, I mean, TJ Watt's kind of got him over a barrel, right? Like you can't not, you're going to have to just go with whatever he wants. He's so important to that franchise. And that roster has become so gloomy. Like, who else are you excited about in Pittsburgh? I'm not that excited about Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's a corpse to me at this point. DK Metcalf is good, but can he do the thing on his own? I mean, what are we like? Pat Freiermuth trying to like? What is going to make us excited outside of TJ Watt on that roster right now? Minka Fitzpatrick? Like, I don't know. I think they kind of just need to give him what he wants and get him in the building.
I agree with that. They do, and I think they need to make some more additions on the offensive side of the ball. But it's clear what their vision is here, and that's something that my guy Matt Williamson from Peacock and Williamson podcast talked about recently.
Real quick, state of the Steelers union is this team's never going to be like, we're going to trade Cam Hayward and TJ Watt and win 4 games. I mean, that's just not what they do. That goes back to Joe Green and Chuck Noll. I mean, like, so they're going to do everything they can to be as competitive as possible this year. And next year, they're going to draft a quarterback in the first round with the draft being in Pittsburgh. I can almost guarantee it. And in the meantime, they've fortified both lines of scrimmage with all their recent first-round picks is what they're trying to do. Young, talented offensive and defensive lines to insert a quarterback next year, and they're going to try to ride the fence of maybe finally winning that playoff game this year, and making some noise.
If that was their plan, then they've executed their plan. But part of that is getting TJ Watt in there. I think they need to add a Gabe Davis on the outside, make a trade for a Kyle Pitts or a Jonnu Smith. If you're going to have Aaron Rodgers and you're going to try to be
Smith,
all in.
Trade for the better player.
Yeah. If you're going to be all in, win now with Aaron Rodgers, then give him a chance. Then give him a chance to do it. So that's where I'm at. I think we could argue about whether this is the right plan for the Steelers, but if their plan is what Matt just explained, they have accomplished their plan.
I don't know if there is a right plan for the Steelers, to be honest. They've drafted, some of their draft picks have been, unsexy but good. They got a couple of first round O-line that, are sort of anchoring things now. But like that roster has decayed a lot over the years. Their central players are getting older, especially on defense. TJ Watt is part of that too. He's on the wrong side of
Hayward, even Fitzpatrick himself.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is like a chapter for the Steelers where there is a right move. I think you're just kind of choosing how much dignity you're going to lose with. And I don't know. I look forward to this 6-win season and being done with these guys by Thanksgiving.
Fair enough. You know who else might have a 6-win season and we could be done with them by Thanksgiving? Another team that I think needs to get off to a great start, and it's the Minnesota Vikings. Look, there's a lot of uncertainty with JJ McCarthy. I know a lot of the aggregator accounts out there love posting good JJ McCarthy content and tagging unnecessary expectations onto him, but
not been from this year.
Right, which is
camp clips from last year going around as if they're from this year. So don't trust.
Hilarious. Yeah, hilarious how that works. Misinformation, folks. But there's nobody better to give us the true information. Luke, I think that the Vikings need to get off to a great start. They had a lot of success with Sam Darnold last year. Not only do you need JJ McCarthy to hit the ground running to be what you expected him to be, but also I think the veterans on the team who experienced that success last year, they need to have faith that they can continue that kind of success. Do you think that's a bad read on Minnesota, or do you disagree that I think they need to have a good minicamp and get things going early?
I think they're checking all those boxes that you're bringing up. There's been a lot of talk about Justin Jefferson being there, being this big bundle of energy, hyping everybody up. He's just this like electric like orb floating around, like juicing everybody up. JJ McCarthy is there doing his thing. Any concern about the knee is long gone. Actually, Christian Darrisaw show up, which is nuts. He's been in the building, but he was on the practice field today, which is insane. He's 7 months removed from an ACL and MCL injury. And so hopefully getting that new look O-line together is probably the most important thing right now, and building that chemistry, which they've now got 4 out of 5 pieces in place. Will Fry's still coming back from a broken leg. I think what you want to see, what I'm focusing on Locked On Vikings is JJ McCarthy's mechanical development, which is still very much kind of picking up where it left off when he got hurt, and it was not finished when he got hurt. So we're kind of still in progress there. But it's, I kind of put for this, like teams that need good camp, anybody with a young quarterback that needs to like establish new connections. So I put the Titans, like Cam Moore getting together with everybody there. So I think that's absolutely true. The vibes out of Minnesota seem pretty positive, and outside of a couple little, there's a contract hiccup with Josh Metellus. He's holding in right now, but he's still there, getting to know everybody, and then just like bringing it. There's a lot of turnover in Minnesota, so just getting those guys together in the same place is very, very important. But it seems like we're getting that to start early. We've been getting that for OTAs. We'll see how camp goes.
Yeah, that was all the things that you're pointing out. I think it's just how negatively you want to color them, but they're all real things that the Vikings, I'm sure, would like, to check those boxes going into training camp. Another team that it's a young quarterback, but not kind of in the way that we're talking about. I think the Houston Texans really need to get off to a good start. I know that they've won a playoff game in back-to-back years, but they're changing offensive coordinators. That's a lot of new pieces on the offensive line with Cam Robinson in there and moving off of Laramie Tunsil and the changes they made. I think they have a lot of new pieces in the skill position. I think they had Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs last year. 2 of those guys are not going to be available early on with Tank Dell's injury and Stephon Diggs being gone. They add 2 rookies and Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. Like, there's just a lot of new on the Texans offense. So I know the defense is in a good spot, but all of the energy, and I said this yesterday, D'Amico Ryans, this is your test as a defensive coordinator, head coach. Can you get the OC thing right? Can you get it right multiple times? I think the Texans, with kind of the fall back down to earth that Stroud and the offense had last year, if they don't get off to a good start in like mini camp and early in training camp, there may be that thought in the back of people's minds like, man, are we just not going to be able to get this right on offense? Are we wasting CJ Stroud?
For similar reasons, I put the Patriots down. You have Drake May
Yes.
there. You have Stephon
Yep.
Diggs there now. They have not gotten off to the start that you want because there's immediately a circus. But
Drake May's throwing picks and having bad statistics in mandatory minicamp today. And CJ Stroud is back throwing though. So go.
Camp picks are good. Okay. I love it when you see camp picks. Very famously, Brett Favre did this and taught it to Aaron Rodgers, who did this his whole career. When you're in camp or OTAs or this sort of 7-on-7 thing, you want to push the limits. You want to, test windows you would never test in a game that counted. So you can limit test, figure out exactly what you can and can't get away with. It's especially important for older quarterbacks who don't necessarily know what their arm has, or if you're a younger quarterback that just changes the mechanics and you might have a change in velocity. What can I get away with now? Is it more? Is it less? What can I do? And plus, if you make a genuine mistake, throw a bad interception. You want it to happen when it doesn't count so you can learn from that. So when I hear stuff like Drake May is throwing a lot of picks, excellent, good. Now is the time.
Luke, I get that, but how do you know whether they're testing the limits or they're just not very good?
Hey, if they're screwing up, now is the time to learn from it too.
Yeah, sometimes people don't stop screwing up, though. So the screw-ups are just signs of more screw-ups. You know what I mean? But I get what you're saying. It is the time to tinker. It is the time to test. And good quarterbacks, we should probably not worry about it. But guys who we don't know if they're good yet, I wouldn't be as excited about the training camp interceptions from Drake May. But I do think Drake May is a good player, and I think he's going to be fine. But with that in mind, let's look at the other side of this. Who are some teams who... I don't really care what they do in mandatory minicamp. I'm going to be believing them no matter what. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by the Skylight Calendar. Say goodbye to sticky notes, scribbled plans on the fridge, and overlapping calendar invites. The Skylight Calendar is here to bring clarity to the chaos and help families stay organized without the stress. This sleek digital display, it's like a 15-inch digital calendar, HD screen. It's fantastic. It makes it super simple to track appointments, practices, dinners, reminders, all in one easy-to-see place. That's what I love the most. For my family, having the Skylight Calendar in a central location just allows everybody to always be on the same page and always stay on schedule. And I really love that you can give different people different colors, so you can just look at it and know whose event that is on the calendar. It's so practical. It's so fantastic. Right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/NFL. Go to skylightcal.com/NFL for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/NFL. All right, Luke, let's cap off today's edition of Locked On NFL. We've talked about the Bengals and the Steelers holdouts. We've talked about some teams who need to get off to a good start. Now we need to talk about some teams who just play it slow in minicamp, guys. Now, before we dive in, I do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting. As training camp gets closer and moves are being made, host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Luke, one of the teams that I'm looking at, and I'm like, you know what? I don't really care what you guys do, is the Baltimore Ravens. They're just an organization as a team. They have all their pieces. They have Lamar. They have Derrick Henry. They're good to go. They always seem to figure out and get the most out of their talent on defense no matter what's happening. Like, no matter what, Baltimore's going to be back into the playoffs. I just don't see them taking any steps back. And I don't think mandatory minicamp matters at all for a team like that.
No, I think you could kind of put anybody who's, had a deep playoff run, is running it back. The Ravens, the Eagles, the Chiefs, right? Like all of these teams.
The Rams.
We know. Yeah, the Rams. You'll be fine. Just get out of this with nobody getting hurt in a non-contact drill. And, we'll be fine. So I tried to kind of look at teams that I think are not as obvious, but you still just kind of hope that they just get out of this without anybody getting hurt or anybody further getting hurt. So I put the Chargers. They haven't changed much on their offense at all. The biggest change is probably at running back. Sure. Yeah. the biggest change is probably a running back, right? O'Marion Hampton
Right.
for the Chargers. And in OTAs and minicamp, you don't get a ton of running stuff done. It's more of a 7-on-7 thing. So, like, look, Justin Herbert, we know it works with Ladd McConkey. We know it works with Mike Williams with him. Like, we know that can work. That is all proven. Just get out of this normally. Could they have done more in the offseason? Maybe we could argue that, like, well, running back the Chargers, maybe we wanted to try to take a bigger step or do something more aggressive. Sure, but where we're at right now, you have made the choice to go with what is known, and what is known. Okay, great. Get a couple more plays installed that you didn't have last year. Throw a couple extra wrinkles into this concept or that concept, and let's all get out of this healthy.
No, that makes a ton of sense. And quite honestly, my choice is a team that I think's in that same boat on the other side of things in the NFC. And I think it's the Green Bay Packers. And I know that the Green Bay Packers haven't blown the doors off, like last year in the playoffs, but they're just a team that is super consistent to me, and I'm not really looking at them like, man, they need to get off to a good start. They're just consistent, and quite frankly, I think they might even be overlooked a little bit because they disappointed last year, and of course, my guy Peter Bukowski from Locked On Packers agrees with that.
They are being overlooked. And if you're a Packers fan, I'm sure for a lot of you, you're going, hell yeah, that's exactly where I want to be. I want to be overlooked. I don't want to be the favorite because the Packers have been the favorites in the past and it hasn't worked out. And in fact, when the last time they won the Super Bowl, they were certainly not the favorites and they were the 6th seed back when there were only 6 playoff seeds. They very much in 2023 had a chance to go to the Super Bowl as the 7th seed. And had the seeding broke a little different last year, they might have had that chance to at least get to the NFC Championship game. Now, health and a lot of factors worked against them there. This team had a better offense. So everyone ahead of them, the Eagles, the Lions, the Rams, the Commanders. By DVOA, the Packers had a better offense than all but the Lions. Better than the Eagles, better than the Rams, with Matthew Stafford and the genius Sean McVay, than Rookie of the Year and everyone's new favorite quarterback, Jaden Daniels. And they had a better defense by far over Washington and LA than all those teams but Detroit and Philadelphia. Right now, today, if you were going to make odds, Green Bay should be 3rd in the pecking order. I'm fine with the Eagles and the Lions in the top 2. After that, Green Bay is the next most likely team to win the conference.
Do you have Green Bay over the Rams in terms of likeliness to win the NFC?
So FanDuel has this. You can go take your conference odds right now, and Green Bay is 5th, but the Rams and 49ers and Packers are all within 50 points of each other. The Rams are plus 900, the Packers are plus 1,000. It's pretty close. So it's not that far off of what I don't know if you can call them slept on when they're 5th in NFC odds and like an inch away from being 3rd in NFC odds. But I think for their minicamp, I don't know if I agree with you that they can just sort of like sleepwalk through this. They do have a rookie 1st-round receiver, and they need to figure out what their pass catcher situation is with Jordan Love. Jordan Love did not have the help that we all thought he was going to have from guys like Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson and Jaden Reed last year. Those guys pulled disappearing acts all the time. There were drops issues. That group turned out catastrophically bad and is, I would say, the main reason that they didn't go further in the playoffs, that they couldn't hang with Philadelphia. But you get into this moment now, you finally can really, the coaches can all get your hands on these receivers. You need to figure it out. Whether it's Matthew Golden shows up, gets a bunch of chemistry with Jordan Love, he becomes the answer. He's number 1 now. Or whether one of these other guys is going to take another step. You have to figure out what your plan is to present more threats offensively that don't just rely on Jordan Love throwing some back foot Hail Mary that happens to land in the right place. You can't live like that anymore. You need somebody that really, really threatens things more than Romeo Doubs, who can be like an okay possession receiver.
Yeah, I think the big thing with the Packers is they need more superstars. Like, they have a really, really solid team. They have a lot of B-level position groups and good rotations where they have, 4 or 5 or 6 guys, and they're always finding these crazy answers on the offensive line without having star players or high picks. They just figure it out. Like, all that is great, but you have to have a couple of superstars mixed in there who truly change the game and truly make a difference. And I just don't feel like the Packers have any of those players, quite frankly. So I don't think they have one with Matthew Golden either, but that's a conversation for another time. With that being said, that is going to do it for today's edition of Locked On NFL. I am your host, the Madman Tyler Rowland, for my co-host, the Brain Luke Braun. As we tell you every episode, thanks for tuning in and stay safe out there.